Hi, I'm Tom, and this is an app I recently developed, and I'm just going to take you through it very briefly and have a quick look at some of the code as well behind the app. So the app is called Death in the City. It's a murder mystery game aimed at students of English. So these are people who are studying English as a second language. And the idea of the app is that as the detective, you solve various puzzles, breaking codes, looking for bits of evidence, questioning witnesses, and eventually, hopefully, you catch the killer. I built this app in React, and it's a single page application, so everything's basically going to happen without any page refreshes or anything like that. So in the background, that's actually handled by React Router. So all of the components can just be linked to from within the app, and they'll load instantaneously and seamlessly. So I'm not going to go through the entire app because it is quite a big app and it probably takes a student about 45 minutes to an hour to complete it. But let's just have a look at what's going on. So basically, you can choose the detective you want to be. When you've chosen your detective, you hit play. And then this is where the story begins. So we've got a character who gives you the background information. This is basically just a reading exercise. The student gets some information from newspapers. So we've got a bit of CSS animation going on here. So it's some styled components in React that I'm using here. And that takes us into our first challenge, which is basically a straightforward vocabulary matching game. So as you find words which are synonymous, so we've got, for example, tough and strong, and then those two tiles will disappear. And eventually you will end up with no tiles left, at which point you're presented with all the tiles so that you can take notes if you want to. You know, obviously it is a learning app, so you are encouraged to take notes. That's part of learning. So to solve the actual crime, you have to speak to witnesses, and the witnesses and I'm just going to sort of skip ahead here to show you what one of the witness pages look like. So we're going to visit a witness, and this witness is called Tony Monsetto. We've got a little bit of information about him here. So a conversation appears here. And what the student has to do is they have to choose the correct way of continuing the conversation. So this is basically a grammar question, and I think that's the correct one. Yep. So the conversation updates. Then the witness asks you another question. And then again, the conversation updates. And now we get the message here. So Tony is basically saying to us, let me see what I can do. Come this way. So follow Tony. So here we get our first challenge. And in this challenge, the students have to break a code in order to find out what's inside this safe. So I'm just going to break the code very quickly. Of course, I wrote it so I can remember what it is. I think that's correct. Spin the wheel. There we are. So the safe opens, and we now find this visitor's book, and that's going to be really helpful when it comes to solving the crime. A few more scenes here, which is basically just backstory, and then we find ourselves in the office. So in the office, we've got a series of witnesses that we're going to interview, and then later, as evidence appears from these witnesses, it's going to turn up in the office, and we'll be able then to start to build up a picture of what went wrong, of what actually happened and how this murder happened. We might just have a look at one more challenge. So if we just go and visit this witness quickly, and so again, we start off by speaking to the witness. So saying, no, it's too dangerous, I can't help, not even two questions. Okay. So this witness didn't want to help us, so we're just going to have a look in their rubbish bin. And look what we found here. We have found, it says the love letter challenge. So now back in the office, the love letter challenge has appeared here. Let's open it. Right, so in this challenge, we have got a letter which has been encoded. And what the student has to do is they have to break this code. And it might look like quite a difficult challenge, but actually it's not that bad. If you think about it, a letter starts probably with the word dear. So let's select the letter D and put that in. And as you'll see, it updates all of those symbols. There's only 2 of them in this case. Let's keep spelling out dear. There we are, all of the E's we've now found. If that's correct, we don't know until the end. Oh, I forgot the A. So this is going to help us solve this crime. Now we also know the name of the person the letter was addressed to. So let's put an L in here and just spell out the name. So as you can see, gradually as we guess words and letters, the code is being broken, and eventually we're going to see what was actually written in this letter. So here we've got a word which has only got 1 letter in it. It's probably going to be I or A. Well, we've already used the A, so it must be the I. Again, we've got Y blank U, full stop. That's got to be surely the word U. So bit by bit, we're actually going to be able to work out what that letter tells us. So that's the kind of challenge that the students have to deal with in order to solve the crime. I'm just going to pop over into VS Code and we'll just have a bit of a look at what's happening under the bonnet of the app. So this app component is probably the longest component because the way the app works is that most components are imported in here, and then we've got the React router controlling the navigation, and then we've got each of the witnesses is its own component with a whole load of props, and likewise each of the challenges is its own component as well. That doesn't need so many props because the challenges are standalone pretty much. So let's just have a look. So there are 6 witnesses, so we just have 1 witness component. Let's just go over to pages and have a quick look. So down here we've got the witness component. So I've got the components that go with that component. So that's basically mostly CSS for the layout. And then in here, we've got the actual logic. So this was the conversation that the student can choose what to say. So that's the logic that handles all of that. Fair amount of code. It's a fairly involved piece of logic, really. And then ultimately, obviously, it returns the React components. And then likewise, of course, all of the challenges that the student goes through will have their own, and they're all listed under trials. So we looked at the one called CodeBox, so that opens the safe, so that there is the logic behind that. Not too bad, that one. It's fairly straightforward. It's just checking if the code is in the correct order, and if it's correct, and if it is, then it basically goes for some CSS animation to open the door and reveal the book underneath that you can click on. I think the other one we had a quick look at was the love letter. Quite complicated logic in that. Just getting it right so as all of the tiles change when you just select one. Most of these components are obviously using useEffect hook. In some of them I have used also the useCallback hook, and of course plenty of useContex, because the whole app is sort of backed up by context, really. There's a lot of stuff, because every time the student goes back to the office, which oh sorry, I forgot to say, there is a bit of a helps and hints page, so if a student gets stuck, they can just have a quick look at that, which is going to hopefully give them a bit of a tip. Don't want them to get too stuck. But yeah, in the office, everything that we've looked at, all of the witnesses we've met, the challenges we've done, etc., that is all saved in context, so it's always there when they go back to the office. Right, I think that's pretty much everything about the app. I've dropped the link to the app as well if you'd like to have a go at it, have a play with it, and by all means let me know what you think.